alone. There were ongoing narratives, names that had become familiar to her over the years, though she'd only met a few of her husband's colleagues. Ongoing themes of rivalry, alliances, sudden rifts, feuds, tragic developments, startling consequences. In these accounts, Alan was invariably the protagonist, the center of the narrative. Though Abigail did not always listen closely to these accounts, she took comfort in hearing them. Impossible not to feel a wave of tenderness for the man who, through the years, from the very start of their marriage, solemnly recited to his wife the banalities of his life, as a child might recite the events of his life to his mother, secure in the knowledge that anything he did, anything he said, because it was his, would be prized by his mother, if not by others. In exchange, Abigail told her husband of her day, more briefly, for she was the wife. She had a dread of boring him. As a young woman, indeed as a girl, Abigail had learned to shape herself to fit the expectations of others. If there was a singular narrative of her life, it had the contour of a supple, sinuous snake, ever delighting in its contortions and in the shimmering, iridescent camouflage skin that contained it. Even as a mother. Perhaps as a mother most of all. Crucial not to let them know how frightened you are, how little you know, how astonished you are that they have survived. For nothing is so flimsy-seeming as a human infant, soft-skulled, soft-eyed, with such tiny lungs, you fear they might collapse with wailing. Damn! Her car was bumping, jolting. A fierce winter had left the narrow country road in poor condition, potholed and rutted. Following a line of other vehicles, Abigail was forced to drive unnaturally slowly, gripping the steering wheel in both hands. A throbbing pain had begun at her temples. The sensation of unreality deepened. Surely the detour would double back soon. You had to surmise that a detour describes a half-rectangle around an impassable road, the object of which is to lead back to that road on the other side of the blockage. But Cold Soil Road seemed to be leading in the opposite direction from Northridge. Oh, where was her cell phone? She should call Alan to tell him that she'd probably be late. But her handbag was out of reach in the back seat, where she'd carelessly tossed it. In the late afternoon, the sun was unnaturally bright. The sky resembled a watercolor wash of pale oranges, reds, too pretty to be real, and of a particularly banal prettiness, like calendar art. Deciduous trees that only the previous week had been skeletal and leafless were now luminous with tight little greeny buds. Too soon. Abigail felt a frisson of alarm, dread. Cruel to awaken the dead in spring, more merciful to let us sleep. From Cold Soil Road, her car was shunted onto a narrower country road that seemed to have no name, or at least she could not discover any name. No choice but to follow the detour signs, with resentment and mounting unease, though a left turn should have been followed by a right turn to begin to complete the rectangular figure of the detour, and not this slow curve leftward into the countryside. Where am I being taken? This is wrong. Traffic was sparse on this unnamed road. No one seemed to be coming in Abigail's direction, all traffic in the other direction, strung out along the detour like dispirited Bedouins. Worse, after so much jolting, the steering wheel of Abigail's car seemed to be loosening. Each time she turned it, the car responded less immediately, as if she were driving on ice. At last, at a curve, she turned the wheel with no effect at all. The car continued forward, off the road and in the direction of a shallow ditch. Panicked, she pumped the brake pedal, but this too had little effect. Something struck her forehead, as if in rebuke. She heard a murmur of startled voices at a distance, witnesses to her folly. She cried in protest. No, it was not her fault. Something had happened to the steering wheel. The front wheels of her car were in the ditch. The rear of the car remained on the roadway. The windshield had seemed to fly back toward her, striking her forehead. She was sobbing with frustration.